Hey there, welcome to Friday's session of Coding at Home. Today we're going to move on from types finally, some of you might be saying, and we're going to go back to functions, but we're going to go back to functions with a little bit of a twist. Now that we've learned how to use types and we've learned how to initialize them and we learned what all that stuff means, we're going to start to get a little bit more sophisticated with our functions. Just like as we've grown, we've done functions, we've created variables. That's a little more sophisticated. We've done for loops. That solves a couple problems for us. We've done conditions. That's, again, throws another wrinkle into our code. Now we're going to go back after having learned types, and we're going to go back to functions and learn ways that we can make them even more flexible than before and make the code that we write incredibly powerful and reusable by loads of different people. A couple things before we start. I wanted to give a shout out about our surveys again. I'd love it if you could go in and just fill in a bit of feedback. Let me know who you are, roughly, not specifically. Why you're coming to coding. If you're being forced, you can, give a nod and, finger to the side of your nose or something to let me know. But I just want to know so that I can kind of tailor our content for you. We're going to get a little bit more advanced as we go on. After we finish off Everyone Can Code Puzzles, we'll move on to Intro to App Development with Swift. We'll maybe do a little bit of logo programming on a Mac. We might do some augmented reality stuff. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for you guys. The other little shout out is the Everyone Can Create program is sort of the other side of the Everyone Can Code program. Somebody tweeted today, and I'll have a link to it, about a professor in Australia did a really, really nice YouTube video about how to use GarageBand. And for the first time in 4 years, we dusted off the piano and the kids were downstairs playing. And it sounded great. It was a ton of fun and extremely worthwhile. So there's other things you can do with an iPad besides just code. So with that out of the way, we're going to get back to our iPad. All right, so now we're ready to move on from types and initializers. We're on to chapter 7 of Everyone Can Code Puzzles, and this is functions with parameters. Now, we've already covered functions. If you remember, we'll give you a quick view of we'll take a quick look back at the syntax here. So for a function, we've got the func keyword, then the function name. The way we were defining them, we just had an open and closed parentheses with the open brace, and then we wrote all of our code that we wanted to perform a particular function. Like you'll recall, in one of the playgrounds that we worked through, we made a function called move3. And all it did was it called move forward 3 times. That's just because I was kind of sick of typing move forward all the time. If I can just call move3, then I don't have to write 2 more extra lines of code. So that was our function syntax. Now we're going to show you how to not improve, but a different way of writing functions that let you pass in these things called parameters. And this is probably one of the more geeky sounding chapters. But we're going to hopefully demystify that a little bit. And you'll say, oh yeah, parameters, of course. It's just extra information that I want to pass in that the function can then use. So the book explains functions with parameters pretty well. In fact, it gives a nice example here of say hello. Now we could write a function called say hello with an uppercase H and a lowercase s. And all that function would do would be to print out the string hello. That's not super useful. We might want to make it a little bit more generic so that more people can use it. What if we want to say goodbye? Well, we could use the same functions to print out say goodbye if we do like they've done here. And they've made it so you can pass in the string that you want the device to say. So we'll skip over this particular activity, and what we'll do is we'll jump right back to the playground. So we're going to be working in Learn to Code 2 again. We're going to work through the introduction of parameters, And we're going to try out that first puzzle. So let's go back to the home screen. We're going to open up Playgrounds. And the kind of cool thing about this particular chapter is we've already used some functions with parameters. When we've been doing the Shapes Playground, when we did the Turtle Graphics Playgrounds, both the simplified and the regular one, we call functions like forward, and we passed it a number, because that was to tell the turtle to move forward so many steps. That's basically what we're going to be doing throughout this playground. All right, so if I look, I open it up, I'm where I left off. So I'm off in the types section because we were jumping around the types and initialization chapters. So we're going to go down to the parameters chapter here, and we're going to tap on introduction. Okay, so this is all about creating options. So like our say hello example, we could write a function called say hello, or paint room green, paint room pink, paint room orange, paint room blue. You'll note that the beginning of each one of these functions is kind of the same up to the color, right? So if we take the example of painting the room, here we go. We've painted the room green 3 times because we needed 3 layers of paint. Now, this is where the syntax gets a little bit more funky, but we're going to work through it slowly, and we'll spend a couple of days on this so it'll stick. So here's our func keyword still. Here's the name of our function, paint room. Here's our open parentheses. And when we accept parameters, those go inside those parentheses. So here, this is the parameter. So basically, it's going to be our variable that we can use inside the function. So it's color. There's a colon there. And then the type of the variable that we want to have passed in. So Swift cares a lot about types because it helps us write really safe code. If Swift knows the type, then it can spot errors that you might be making. Because a common error that you may have made back in the day in other programming languages is you may have passed something in as a parameter that wasn't actually a color. It might have been a number or a string, and the language didn't quite know what to do with it, so it probably crashed. So here we've got our parameter. So this is the name of the input that we're passing in, and then this is the type. So this is what it would look like if I were calling it. This one here, this is what it looks like when I define it, when I create my own function with parameters, where I've got the color, colon, and then the type. When I call it, when I want to actually paint the room, I would call the function like normal, use the parentheses, add the label for my parameter, color, with the colon, and then I pass it in a color. Now, this is a more sophisticated version here. So if we take a look at this next version, this has got additional parameters. So if you want to pass in more than just one, like say the layers, the number of layers you need to paint the room, you would separate these with a comma. And you can see that when I call this function here, paint room, color, colon, I give the color, comma, and then the next label for my parameter follows, so layers, and that's looking for an int that we saw on the previous screen. So that's just the whole number, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we pass in the value that we want that number to be. This is really handy because now instead of having to have a function called paint room blue and then call it 3 times, or paint room green and call it 3 times, we can just call paint room color, give it a color, tell it how many layers, and then let the function do the work. So in this case, we're looking at a new function that we're defining called func move. So in this case, we've told Swift, hey, remember this. I've got this move function that I want you to remember. It's going to accept a parameter called distance, and that needs to be an int, so a whole number. And then in here, just like our other functions, inside the braces, this is the code that's going to get run when someone calls that function. So in this case, we have a loop that says for I in one ... distance, and then we have the braces, move forward. So this distance is going to be the value that was passed in as this parameter. So let's have a look at that. So move distance 3. So you can see the car just moved forward 3 times. If we just did it once, it would just call move forward once. This is a little bit more abstract thinking. This requires a little bit more planning and thinking about how you want to use your code, how others are going to use your code. And it requires a lot of practice. So let's get off to a playground and start practicing this. Okay, so we have we're going to write a function to move forward a certain number of times. Throughout all of these playgrounds, we've been getting byte and the other characters to move forward. And a lot of the times we've had to say, move forward, move forward, move forward. Now we're going to create a function that we can just call move and then give a number so we don't have to keep calling move forward over and over again. Again, this kind of goes back to that programmers are lazy theme that I've been talking about. We want to write this stuff once and then not really have to go revisit it again. Make our lives easier so that we can get on writing the interesting code. All right, so first thing we're going to do, as I'll walk down through the file. So let's see. So what we need to do is we need to create an expert. So we're going to initialize an expert. So I'm going to pick my expert type. I'm going to pick my open parentheses. And there. So I've got my expert. They've got a function declaration for move already. It's basically just the definition. So we'll tap in here. Well, if we're looking at the previous screen in the introduction, it was a loop, right? So we had a for loop here because we want to move the number of times that someone passes in for distance. So let's do a for loop. And we can use, it actually gives us that as an option here. We can say, okay, cool. Well, we'll pick distance. And then we'll do, well, we want the expert to move forward. So let's grab our expert variable, which is the lowercase version. Say dot move forward. So let's try that out. So we can see that our expert is going to show up here. So let's have them go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forward. We're going to call move. And then I have my autocomplete here. So I'm going to tap on distance int. So I said 6, right? So we'll do 6. Now let's run this code and see what we get here. Okay, there's the expert. He showed up. He's moving. I've only had to write really one sort of line of code that Swift is actually executing. Maybe 2. We've got the expert as well. And then I'm kind of going off and calling my function. So once I've written this, I can kind of forget about it. I can say, all right, you know what? That move works really well. The expert did his job. If I want to then I need to go over and turn this lockup. Now, if we were doing this the old way, we'd have a ton of calls to move forward. Or at the very least, we'd have a bunch of for loops in here where it'd be like for I in 1 ... 6, and then we'd turn left and we'd say, ugh, or turn right. And then we'd say, do we want a loop to go 2, or do we want to just type move forward twice? Now we can actually write it like this. We can say, all right, cool. Well, the expert's got to turn. So let's do expert dot turn right. We want the expert to move. So this function here isn't defined on the expert, right? So we have to remember that we got to tap on this autocomplete here. So we're going to go forward twice. And then we want to get down to the next line. We want to turn right again. And we want our expert to turn right. So we have to say expert dot turn right. We want our expert to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this time. So we're going to go hit the move function, move 5 times. Let's try running this to see where we wind up. See if we wind up where we expect there. Oh, problem running this page. Remember, if that happens to you, we'll just hit the back arrow and then we'll hit the forward arrow. We'll wait for our puzzle to come back. While the puzzle's coming back, we'll kind of have a look and say, okay, cool. It's telling us about using parameters. If we tap on parameter, it'll give us the definition here. So it's just an input value to a function, right? So we kind of treat it almost like a variable for the function, because whoever's using our code can put in whatever value they like, right? If especially, well, whatever value in terms of numbers. You might say, actually, let's see how far we can go. Let's put in, I don't know, 6,000, 6 million for our distance. The code will execute. Now the expert will try almost fall off the edge. So it might not be super exciting, but you can do that. So let's run our code and see what happens with the expert. Off he goes. Down the steps, turns right, moves twice, turns right again. He's going to move forward 5. Excellent. Okay, cool. Now we need to turn the lock up there, to get that platform up. So let's have our expert turn left this time. So expert dot turn left. Now the expert is facing this way, and how many steps do they have to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to call our move function that we've written, say 5. And then we're going to turn left. So let's put the cursor on the next line. Now, if you forget and you've typed in 5, and then you start typing in expert here, which might happen. We'll have a little error. So x is not a valid digit in floating point exponent. Okay, that's not a great error message for me. I might be a little bit confused by that. But if I go back and I just take a deep breath and I have a read over, I say move distance 5. Oh, that shouldn't be in there. All right, cool. Let's get rid of this guy. So let's replace that with just a 5, and then close my parentheses. Now I can hit return. It's always best whenever you see a red dot or anything like that, before you panic too much, especially when the error message is a bit cryptic, you just take a deep breath and we'll try to reason it out. So expert dot, we're going to have them turn left. And now we can unlock or turn the lock up. So we'll do turn lock up. So let's run this and see how that works out. The thing I really like about this code is that's kind of a long way for our expert to go from this arrow over here all the way here. That would have been a lot of code, or at least a couple for loops. And guess what? I only had to write one for loop that takes this parameter, this value from the parameter, and I can call it again and again. I've called move my new move function so many times here, and it saved me a ton of lines of code. Well, then we turn left. We're going to turn the lock up. Let's see. Hopefully that's enough. That looks like it's enough. So now we can have the expert turn left again, and 1, 2, 3. So let's do that. Expert dot. And remember, we're calling this on the instance of our expert. And then we're going to have a move. What did I say? 3 times. 3 times. We're going to have the expert turn right because we're going to cross that bridge. Turn right. And then we've got to go forward 1, 2, 3 times. So we're going to use our new move function that we're huge fans of because it's saving us so much typing. Going to hit return to get to the next line. I just tapped at the end of this brace and then I hit the return key there. Now I've moved 3 times. I'm about here, I'm guessing. So we're going to turn right and go 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's do expert dot turn right. And then if we accidentally say, oh, do you know what? I want to use my cool move function. I'm going to start typing it because I don't see it in the autocomplete. And how many did I say? 5. We'll do 5. Now, I made a couple mistakes here. So if I tap on the red dot, it'll tell me I'm missing an argument labeled distance in the call. So oh, this is nice. I can fix that. Let's fix that. And let's try running that. Cool. Off our expert goes. There we go. We're going to turn the locks. We're going to get back over to that bridge. Turn right over the bridge. Now this last one we're going to call the expert.move instance of it. So it looks like this is defined on the instance as well. Ugh, and we forgot to collect our gem. So I was actually trying to show off something else, and I didn't realize that that's defined on our experts. All right, so let's do this. Let's change this. Let's get rid of that expert, and just to be clear, we'll use the function that we just defined. We'll go to the next line, and now we have to do the last thing, which is tell the expert to collect the gem. So let's run our code. Now you can see from the size of this puzzle, the number of tiles that we have to walk. This would have been a massive amount of code before. It just would have spanned pages. Whereas with our function, this little handy move function has kind of taken a lot of the pain away for us. Having this loop and having the expert move forward has been a real lifesaver in terms of how many lines of code that I have to go back and read. Because anything where I have to go read these lines of code, any extra length, it's just going to be, it's going to take more of my time. It's going to be more stuff that I have to remember and keep in my head. Whereas when I can kind of create a function that can be reused and is very flexible, just like telling Swift, hey, remember this for later, I can sort of park that somewhere in my brain and come back to it later. Okay, cool. So we defined a function using parameters. It's more reusable, and there's a definition of reusable. Now that we've defined move, we're going to add it as a method. We'll be able to use it as a method on the character and expert types. Now, we showed that the other day with our dog type about how to add a function to a type. And we can also call that a method, right? So here in the text is that now that we've added this, they've done a bit of work under the hood to add this move function as a method that you can call on our expert. So that's why my earlier code that I was kind of expecting to fail didn't fail. It worked because it's under the hood been also defined on our expert and character type. All right, so off to the next page. So we'll hit the next page down here. So now we're going to generalize a function. So this is handy because this is where we start to look back at our code and we say, all right, well, what can we do to improve this this code? How can we make it more reusable so that I have to remember less and I don't have to I cut down on the number of lines of code that I have to read when I'm trying to solve a specific puzzle. So in this case, we've got a new function with two parameters, an up or down, I'm guessing, right? So if we say turn lock and then up is true, we'll turn the lock up. If it's false, we'll turn the lock down. And then a certain number of times. So how are we going to define that? So first off, we've got to initialize an expert and a character. We've got a couple locks here, and now the expert will probably show up here because we've got the two locks, one next to the other. And then we'll have our character will show up here. So let's see, let's initialize our expert. And then we'll initialize our character. Okay, so what do we want to do here? So the first thing we want to do is we probably want to have our expert turn around, and we're going to turn the lock up because these purple things have to get all the way up to this platform. So let's start writing some of that. So we're going to have our expert dot turn around. So we'll do turn left twice. Okay, now we can call our new function here, turn lock up and then number of times, because as you can see, that platform is really far down. So we'll need to call turn lock up a couple times. So we're going to call turn lock up, and we'll say true because we want the platforms to go up. And then number of times is going to be, I don't know, let's try 3. So if we run this, what we're going to see is our two characters show up. Our expert turns around, and he just kind of dances there. Okay, so we have to add some code. If we look at the hint, so it says we'll need to define the turn lock function. So it uses the up parameter to tell the expert which direction to turn the lock, and then use number of times to figure out how many times we turn up or down the lock. Okay, so let's jump in here. So first things first, we're going to call, to turn the lock up or down, we would say expert dot, all right, so we can say turn lock up. Now this is a Boolean, and we saw before that Booleans are really useful when we're trying to do conditionals. So let's delete this for a second. And let's go down to the autocomplete and hit the if autocomplete. And now we have a condition. Okay, so cool. So now if we say if up, well, this is great. Now we know what to do. This is kind of reads like an English sentence. So we can say expert dot turn lock up. Great. Okay. Now, because it's a Boolean, there's only two possibilities for it here. It can either be true or false. So we've handled the true case. So if up is true, we're going to turn the lock up. If we tap on the brace here, we're going to add an else statement. We could add an else if up equals false, but we don't need to because we know that if it's not true, it's going to be false. So we can say expert dot turn lock down. Okay, cool, great. So that's let's try running our code. Now we're still missing. We haven't handled that number of times parameter yet. Okay, cool. He takes out the keys. All right, turns the lock up. And we're still a bit short. So if we check out the hint, so we've done that. We haven't done the second sentence, right? We haven't used the number of times to set the number of times to turn the lock. Now we just did that with the previous function we defined. And we used a for loop. Right? So where do you think we put the for loop? Do we put the for loop? We could put it inside here. We could say, okay, if up, and then hit the return key and add a for loop. Now it kind of gives me the autocomplete. So I'm going to do it the number of times. So I'm passing in a 3. So it would do this 3 times. Get rid of the keyboard because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag from here around my turn lock up. Now, if I run my code, what do you think is going to happen? Well, we're going to take a while first. But we can kind of read through this and sort of figure out what's going to happen. So let's see. There goes my expert. He's turning around. I'm asking it to turn the lock up 3 times. So let's see. Yeah, turn the lock up. Now that happened before. Oh, it's doing it again. It's going through the loop again. Okay, so it did it 3 times and the platforms are about right. So now we can have the character byte move out. So let's do that. We have to go back down here because remember, this is just our function for turn lock up. So I'm going to tap back down here. Tap at the very end. Which is a bit tricky. If you can't get it and you're stuck here, you can do select as text. And then try to drag those little text selectors. So I want my character to move. So I'm going to say character dot move forward. Okay, so now byte is going to be here. Well, maybe we should have byte collect this first. So let's have him move over there. So take a right. So we're going to hit return. And do character dot turn right. And then character dot move forward. And you can see down here in my autocomplete bar now I have a new function on my character called move a certain distance. So I could actually say move 1. And then I want the character to collect that gem. So let's have byte turn right again. So with character dot turn right. And now I've got to lower this platform. Because if I run my code, byte should wind up here facing this way. All right, there goes our expert. It's running the code in our function here, and it's going through a loop because I've said to do it so many times. Cool. That raised the platform. There goes byte. Now I need to tell the expert to lower the platform again. So I'm going to say, okay, let's call our turn lock down. So I don't want it to go up. I want it to go down. So I'm going to say false. And then I want it to go down 3 times because it's kind of right where it starts. All right, so let's have that. Let's run this. And what do you think is going to happen now? Well, when we get to this turn lock up, there's a problem running this page. Let's go back. Again, just using this arrow, and we'll move forward again. We'll wait for the puzzle to load. But while we're waiting for the puzzle to load, let's read through our code here. So when we get down here, we've done all of this code. We've got character turning right. The new code we added was this turn lock up. We said false. So when we go up here, we're going to say, okay, if up, that's going to be false. So we're going to skip all of this stuff. This is still inside that same block. We're going to jump down here. And we're going to say expert turn lock down. All right, so let's hit run my code. There's our expert. It's going to turn the lock. Takes the keys out again. Turns it up again. And again. 3 times. Cool. And then there goes byte. We're running our character code here. Now we're saying to turn the lock up. False. So we want it to go down. All right. So we went down, but only once. Why didn't we go down 3 times? Ah, well, we didn't write a loop for our turn down, did we? So I'm going to go tap the 4, autocomplete. I'm going to do it number of times again, because I want to do it the number of times the person's asking me to do it. And then we can drag this around our code. And we're like so. Okay. Well, this will do the job. That'll do the trick. But this kind of bugs me a little bit, because if I look at this code, I'm kind of repeating a loop twice. And this is going to happen all the time. When you go and write a function, maybe the first time you're going to say, oh, I've kind of repeated myself a couple of times. How can I make this better? What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that with you for over the weekend to make it better. But for now, that's going to kind of work. So now we're going to turn the lock down. We'll have the character. We're going to assume, which is dangerous, but we're going to assume that this is going to work. So we're going to try to make the character move forward and collect that gem. Move forward. And then we'll do character.collectGem. Okay, then we need byte to turn around. The platforms will still be, hopefully if our code worked, down here. We'll have him move forward twice, 3 times to collect this gem. So first we got to make him turn around. Turn left. Now we're repeating ourselves here to turn around. We might make a function with a parameter called turn left, and then have number of times as a parameter. So we can say, actually, I'm going to write a loop and it'll turn around as many times as I want it to turn around. Sorry, so we'll do character dot move forward 3 times. And then we're going to collect the gem. So character dot collect gem. We'll need to get back on that platform. But let's see if this works. All right, here we go. We've created our 2 characters. Our expert turns around. Gets out the keys to turn the platform up. There we go, 2nd time, 3rd time. There goes byte onto the platform. Okay, we got to put the platform back down now. Down again, and one more time should do it. Down, and then byte's going to move forward, collect the gem, and then move forward 3 times. Oh, byte's blocked. Okay. So we can't move forward 3 times. We can only move forward twice, and then we'll have to change the yellow platform. So now let's give it a bit of space, because this is a different sort of operation we're running. So now we got to tell the expert to turn around. to work on the yellow lock here. So let's see, turn left, and then expert dot turn left. And then now we're going to call our lock above as well. So we're going to say turn lock up, and we want it to go down. Number of times will be once, because it looks like Byte can almost get on that platform. Or actually, we don't want it to go down. We want it to go up. Once, and then we'll have Byte go forward. We'll have move forward. Now I can call move forward because I'm only doing it once. So let's try running this and see how Byte gets on. Here we go. We're turning the lock up to get our platform up so Byte can step onto it. I don't think Byte quite knows how to jump unless he's collecting gems. Okay, there's our platform. Byte can step out. The expert's going to turn the lock down 3 times. Down we go. All right, we're going to move forward and collect the gem. There we are. We're going to turn left, and then move forward twice. The expert's going to turn around, turn the lock up. Byte's going to move forward, collect the gem. Okay, so to finish off this puzzle, all we got to do, is not delete our code. Go to the next line. We're going to have Byte turn around. Turn left. Character dot turn left. We're going to move Byte back out onto the yellow platform. So character move forward once. Going to hit return. So now I'm on the yellow platform. We're probably going to go up twice, right, to get to that platform. So let's have the expert do his job. Actually, we'll use our new turn lock up function. We want it to go up, so that's true. Number of times is twice. I'm going to see, I've selected the whole thing by just tapping on that closing parentheses. I'm going to hit select as text. And then I can tap on this little blue bar at the end. It's a bit easier to move the cursor. Now I want Byte to turn right. Character.turn right. Right, because Byte right now is facing this way. So turning right is going to get him over there. Byte's going to move forward once. Move forward. Now we should be on this piece of the platform. We're going to turn right. Now I've already risen the platform. So if I character.turn right, I'm going to move forward, and this should be it. I'm going to hit return, and then the very last thing is collect the gem, and we should be done. So let's try running my code now. Now, this is a fair chunk of code to solve this particular puzzle. There's a lot of moving pieces up and down. Oh, start over again. So we'll go back to the back arrow. We'll come back forward. Let's try running this again. We'll give the puzzle a second to show up. All right, here we go. Now we're going to run it. All right. right, our expert turns around. It's going to turn the lock up 3 times. So there goes the platform. Now, this is a lot of code here to get the expert to turn up and down the lock and have Byte wait for the platform to rise to meet him and then move around and get the gems. And it's not a very big puzzle. You can see how it'd be so much longer if we had to write out this code ourselves every single time we wanted to turn the lock up or down. If we had to write out this code, it'd be a lot harder to read for us. And it'd be so much more difficult to debug. All right, there goes. Platform's up. Byte can collect that gem. We're going to get him back out onto the platform. The expert's going to turn the lock up twice. Now, that was a very lucky guess by me that it goes up 3 times in the beginning. Otherwise, we might have to do a bit more trial and error to get this thing to work. So this is worth reading. I mean, they've got a bunch of text for us here talking about parameters and reusable code. There is a way you can make this a little bit better. Like I mentioned, I kind of repeat myself here twice. I've got the for loop, the same exact for loop. The only thing I do differently is this condition, turn lock up or turn lock down. I would love it if you could take some time over the weekend to think about, how am I going to improve this? How am I going to make this? How could I make this better? But still do the same, still solve the same problem. And the solution is just in here. We wouldn't have to rewrite any of this code down here. All of this down here is fine. It's in here where we'd have to rewrite it. So I'd love for you to take a shot at it over the weekend. We'll be here on Easter Monday. It's normally a bank holiday in Ireland, but as we're not leaving the house, we'll still be around. So we'll see you at 1 p.m. on Monday. Thanks for joining us.